Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Amber with Helping the Good People. How you doing? I hope you're enjoying all the videos. This video I have tried to do numerous times, and for some reason I just cannot seem to get it out. To get out what I need to say, to get out what I want to talk about. I have tried, and I'm getting very emotional because I can't seem to figure it out. After almost 8 years, I still get nervous talking to a camera. I don't know why. I got so used to talking to people that seeing myself on a film in front of me is just weird. I'm like, okay, I look stupid, or I sound like crap, or you know what I mean? There's always a reason. I gotta tell you, over the years, I've rewatched some of my videos and I've laughed at myself, or I've laughed with it. Or I said, oh, that was so good. Or I've cried at some of the things that I've talked about. So I'm gonna try again. My dinner is just about done on the stove. My roommate is gone. And I finally have some peace and quiet. So I'm just gonna jump right in. Hi, I'm Amber. I live in Tucson. I'm 45 years old, a mom of 3. My kids are 15, 16, and 25. Jake, Sally, and Marissa. And I have been surviving domestic violence and numerous other ailments of trauma. And that's the only way I can describe it, okay? So I like to talk about these things because as I'm learning about myself, I'm also wanting to share it with you guys. I want people to see things differently. It's kind of like when we finally have that aha moment that we have a problem and then we seek out help, then, then we're able to see clearly what our path forward is, right? Well, lately, I've been dealing with a lot of emotional ups and downs. Now, I broke up with my boyfriend a little over 3 weeks ago. It was an 8-year relationship, and I had finally decided that enough is enough. I mean, I don't know how the other party is feeling. I don't know if he's going to be watching this, and tell you the truth, I still have to get it out. I still have to talk about how I'm feeling. And even though I come on YouTube, and I started this channel, this was what I started it for. It is part of my grief and my loss. It is part of domestic violence. It is part of narcissism. It is part of forgiveness. These are topics that I've been talking about for years. And even though I feel like I'm a fool on here, or that I sound stupid or whatever, I know that I don't. I've rewatched my videos. I've laughed with them. I've cried with them. And I said, wow, that's pretty good, or whatever. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go ahead and jump in, and I want to talk to you about something because I've been very emotional. And today I want to talk about emotional addictions. Now, people have talked about addictions before, okay? And I never looked at an emotion as an addiction. I didn't think to even look it up. And in January, February, March, April, I found my notebook, and if you look at the date here, this was the first day that I'd heard about it. This was the first day that I actually heard about emotional addiction and decided to look at it and go, wow, they actually have articles on this stuff. So I love research. I love to learn. And what I don't know, I love to learn more of. Not only do I love to learn about it, but I also like to know how to manage it. And therefore I do these videos. If you go back in time, when I first started this channel, I was so involved with the domestic violence and protecting my family and learning about how to protect my family that I became engulfed in it. And at the same time, I was going out and I was listening to music and I made a lot of friends. Next thing you know it, the videos go from talking about domestic violence to I'm tired of talking about that and dealing with it. And now I'm going to post about music. And then one day I wake up and I'm like, okay, some guy pissed me off and he's a narcissist. So I do a video on narcissism. Very weird how our emotions work, right? I have to laugh at myself. I'm serious. I've tried doing this video, I don't know how many times, and I keep getting stumped. But you know what it is that I'm trying too hard. I just got to be myself, right? Oh, it's storming again outside, I think, or the storm is coming. Talk about emotional roller coaster. The weather's even been emotional. So anyhow, over the years, I have been like, okay, I'm emotional today. So let me look into that. Okay, well, my past relationships, I've been dealing with narcissists. At least that's what they label them, based on behaviors, right? So then I did research on that. And then how about the domestic violence wheel? Or how about the day that I said, okay, I need to forgive. So how do I forgive? So I did a video on that. How about being grateful? Being grateful to just be sitting here with you guys. So I'm Amber with Helping the Good People. I'm sitting here in my kitchen, talking to a camera, and hopefully getting someone to listen and laugh at me too, because I'm sitting here laughing. I have found this book that I started writing in. Of course, I started talking about silent depression because people get depressed. I've been depressed on and off and didn't even know it. Had no idea that they had a topic called emotional addictions. People talk about addictions all the time, but when they hear that word addiction, they think it's a drug addiction, sex addiction, you know what I mean, okay? But when was the last time you ever heard of someone being addicted to emotions? Seriously, emotional addiction, look it up. I did. It's dated April, see? I opened my book and that's what I found, I'm like, okay, it's time to delve into it. So what I want to do is I want to read for you guys a little bit. I just started doing my research yesterday again on it because I put it away, out of sight, out of mind. So I'm going to start reading for you guys some stuff that I found, and it really opened my eyes to my own self and my relationship that I just left about 3 weeks ago. And I started asking myself, why did I keep going back? Why did I let 8 years of my life go by? What was I attached to with this man that I couldn't find within myself? What was my real underlying problem? And not only that, how can I heal from it? How many of you guys have been in a toxic relationship? One that you keep going back to? I know I have. I don't hate him, just so you know. I don't hate him. If anything, I love him. I still do. My friends ask me all the time, how can you love him? How can you keep going back? And I say, I don't know. A lot has happened between me and this man, but I'll tell you what, I keep forgiving. This man that I've been with for 8 years, on and off, back and forth, up and down, is the only man that I really truly have ever forgiven. And why, I couldn't tell you. We've been through so much, but the more I think about it, it's like I just love him. It's an unconditional type of love. Even though I can sit here and say that it's toxic, that it's unhealthy, that I should have never kept going back. I didn't understand why. It's an emotional attachment. It's a feeling that we get. And that's the only way I can describe it, right? So I'm just going to jump in before I start wanting to cry again and get all emotional on you guys. Emotional addiction is a state where the addict is dependent on their emotions. The chemical produced by the brain when particular emotions are triggered, known as hit emotions. A person becomes addicted to feeling a certain way. They become addicted to it. In situations of fear and uncertainty, they will constantly go back to their default emotions, which is familiar. It's familiar. How many of you guys have been living in your emotions all of your life? So when you get into a new environment, or you meet someone new, or you deal with something traumatic, You go back to what's familiar, right? You go back to that fear. You go back to that uncertainty. You go back to that negative thinking. And like, as if you're not worthy enough. You're not good enough, you know? At least that's how I have seen it. And that's the way I've reacted. Is like, I didn't realize that I was unconsciously going back because I got afraid. Because I was afraid they were going to leave me. I decided to leave them first. I thought that, certain things were going to happen, and that fear kicked in. And I said, okay, I'm going to run away. I'm just going to go back to how I was and just be by myself. Well, it manifests in the lives of the addict. Typical behaviors, okay, such as constant venting, a need to relive negative experiences, unconsciously seeking relationships and situations that activate the hidden emotions, that triggering feelings of uncertainty and abandonment. Those are manifested into our lives based on our long history of living in our emotions, of people not listening, of our family when we were younger, when we cried, they told us to shut up, or they didn't know how to handle our tears or our anger. And so instead of reacting in a positive way, they yelled at you, or they told you your feelings don't matter. And what happens? We put the lid on them, right? We put the lid on and we push it down and push it down and push it down. What happens when you push that lid down for too many years? It's going to go, right? Doesn't matter if you're at a new job and someone pisses you off, or you get into a new relationship and you get scared all of a sudden. What do you want to do? You want to run away. You're like, okay, I'm going back to who I was and how I was, and I don't care. It's like, I feel sad, I feel scared, I feel uncertain, therefore I'm going to just stuff it back down. We're also going back to bottling it up. That's what I've learned about myself, is that I keep bottling up my emotions. I'm not being honest with myself. I'm not being honest with how I feel. And when someone asks you, are you okay? And you're like, yeah, I'm fine. But you're not. You're bottling it back up, right? That's how I get in my relationships with my friends, with coworkers, or other people. If I feel attacked, I'm going to go back into myself, and I'm going to hide away, and I'm going to run away, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure you can relate to it. I guarantee something has already popped up in your head about it. It is pouring outside again. Oh my goodness. Hold on a minute. I got to turn off my green beans or whatever I'm cooking. Okay, that's done. Literally, it's pouring outside right now. It has been crazy. You talk about emotions. The weather is emotional. I mean, just last week we had trees get uprooted. We had buildings destroyed, and, just chaos and madness. So anyway, back to what I was saying. Let me breathe for a minute, okay? Let's take a moment of silence for a minute, because I need to really collect myself. I'm trying really hard here to talk calmly. I'm going to just keep reading, okay? How's that? Where does emotional addictions come from? Well, it says here from elephantjournal.com. That's where I got this information. Some of it is written down based on what I read, but it's also with me adding my own stuff in here. So where it comes from, it stems from childhood trauma. Usually manifests itself from unmet emotional needs. Exactly what I just said. Addicts become experts at hiding their emotions by discarding them as something to ignore at best or be ashamed of at worst. So we're good at it. We're good at hiding our feelings and our emotions. If something's bothering us, instead of being honest and speaking up about it, we bottle it up and we say we're fine, right? That it comes from childhood. If you've been in a toxic environment in your childhood upbringing, or surrounded by people who didn't listen to you or you didn't feel heard, there you go. We've learned to bottle it up. When a child you tried to talk to or about or to deal with certain emotions only to be ignored, or the others around you were not equipped to handle your emotions, let alone their own. They couldn't handle it. They didn't know how to do it. Why? Because they, too, had to bottle up their emotions. They never were taught. Our history repeats itself. Do you see that? So think about it next time. If you're having a hard time with your emotions and you go to your parents and then they don't know how to deal with it, let alone do they tell you to shut up, did you ever think that maybe their parents did the same thing to them and that's all they know? Do you see the cycle? So stop what you're doing and ask yourself that. Like, really, if you're having problems with childhood trauma and feeling not heard or whatever, and your parents didn't treat you right, or they told you to shut up, think about your great-grandparents or your grandparents and their parents. Maybe, just maybe, they weren't taught how to communicate it either. I mean, I really sat here and went, wow. So like all the time that my mom and dad didn't listen to me, or my grandmother, my aunt, I never thought about their parents, my great-grandparents, and the way that they were treated. I've got a lot of aha moments at 45 years old, and I'm still learning. Every day is learning. We're always learning. But that's the thing. If we don't sit down with ourselves and think about it this way, how are we ever going to wake up? How are we ever going to get better unless we really do the work? We must really look at ourselves. That's why I enjoy doing these videos. So I hope you're still with me. Even if I feel manic or whatever, I'm going to keep on recording this. And I'm going to keep talking, because when I do that, it comes out. You know what I mean? It gets out of me and goes to you. That way you can learn to. Okay? So let's see here. To them, emotions, let alone their own, it was foreign to them. But, again, it is toxic. It is a toxic coping mechanism. All right? Served well into adulthood until it makes you sick. Or until one wakes up and chooses to confront the demons within themselves. That's exactly what I said. And I know about sickness because I have gotten so depressed or emotional that it has made me sick. My emotions has made me sick. It has put me in bed. It's caused depression. It's caused me to have these moments of doubt and fear and uncertainty. And then what happens? I just run away. I don't really as much anymore, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm getting at. If we do not confront these things that are going on within us, our emotional side of it, and learn to maintain it and calm it down and express it, it can wind us up in the hospital. The lady that wrote this, she basically said that. She said she thought she had it all handled and all perfect, and okay, I dealt with my emotions until the day she wound up in the hospital. And that made me think of me. It's like, wait a minute, I wound up in the hospital before. I've gotten that sick before, but now I know why. Dang emotions, man, they get the better of us sometimes. We can't control it sometimes, but in the actuality of life, we have to learn to control our emotions. It destroys relationships. It destroys families. Our children suffer from it. Our relationships. Our jobs. Our futures. Some can continue to ignore their emotions or become so involved in the emotions that they make everything in their lives about them. In other words, you make everything about your emotions. Oh my God, it's me, it's all this, and it's that, and it's the venting. We feel like we're releasing it, but we're really not. We're using it as a crutch. Being deprived of something for so long can make us obsessed with it once discovered. But don't let this happen to you. That's what I wrote. We become so deprived of people not listening to us that it overwhelms us. It makes us sick. Don't become obsessed with your emotions like I have. Take a look at it. What today can you do to see clearer about what you're going through, how you're feeling? Is there someone that you can call or talk to about it that you trust? If not, do what I do. Pull out a notebook. Do your own research and try to understand what you're going through. An endless cycle of unnecessary pain, feeling everything, seeking happiness always and avoiding the bad emotions. So we also are trying to hide it by pretending that we're happy. We're doing all these things, going out, we're distracting ourselves at all times, whether that's watching TV, videos on YouTube, doing drugs and alcohol, drinking away our blues, and I've been there. I've done it. To this day, right now as I sit, I am 100% sober. I quit smoking cigarettes even. All right? I mean, it's been almost a month, 33 years of smoking, but you know what? I decided my lungs can't handle it. My family has died a lot from cancer, and I'm tired of numbing. That was my baby blanket. If you noticed, I haven't been smoking. It's been going on, this is my 4th week of no cigarettes. I'm so proud of myself. So again, stop avoiding it. Once it is bottled for too long, it becomes a boiling pot, ready to explode. Dependent on said emotions to the point of exhaustion. Overwhelmed by not being able to control said emotions. It becomes exhausting. It depletes energy and makes you stay in overdrive. That's what I was just saying earlier about staying up in this fight or flight mode for so long that it's just automatic. I've been there. I feel like I'm in that hyper-vigilant mode right now just talking to you guys. And I shouldn't feel that way. I don't need to feel that way. Just like talking to you guys on this camera. I always think I'm going to be judged, or someone's going to think I'm stupid, or that my voice doesn't matter. But you know what? It does. From what I've been told, I am helping people, and I don't even know it. Why? Because I'm being myself. I don't mean to hurt anybody. My intention's always good when I do these videos. Sometimes my emotions get the better of me and I can be a little bit bossy. But my heart is in it. My intention is always good. I really, really, really love doing these videos and talking about it, because not only am I learning, but I'm also helping people. Whether you know you're emotionally addicted to something, whether it's fear or anger, own it. Own it. So first thing you want to do when it comes to emotional addictions, okay, I got it here. 1, it says identify your emotions. What are your emotions? What are those constant emotions that you feel all the time? For me, I wrote down anger, rage, frustration, annoyance, outrage, sadness, loneliness, and so on. Those are just a few examples, okay? Maybe you can write your own list. First, you gotta identify them. You gotta own it, We begin to justify our emotions by overanalyzing everything and everyone around us. That is an automatic response, okay? It's not who you are. It's just part of you. It's just part of those responses to the emotions that you're feeling. So once you begin to see them, then you can stop justifying them, making excuses. Overanalyze, I wrote here, analyze something in too much detail. That came from Oxford Dictionary. Another one I wrote down here was overanalyzing is associated with specific instances, okay? It's a mechanism. Let's see, mechanism, yep. Overanalyzing is associated with specific incidences. That's what overanalyzing means. It's not overthinking, it's overanalyzing. It's excessive to cause analysis paralysis and increased stress. Overanalyzing interferes with one's ability to solve problems as it causes you to dwell on the problem and imagine situations that may never happen rather than finding a solution. So we're constantly venting. We're just complaining all the time, and I know that all too well. Because when I get into these moods, I don't even know that I'm in the mood, and I don't realize that I'm venting so much, but I'm not coming up with any solutions. I'm just sitting there going, okay, this happened to me. It's a problem, you know what I mean? We're over-analyzing. Sorry, I'm reading it and I'm feeling the emotion now. Whenever you first read it and you're like, oh, I get it. But then when you reread it later, it's like, aha, I get it. So and that was from farmeasy.com. Some think that resharing certain situations or problems in their head helps them overcome them. Studies say otherwise. I know that that's not a good thing. It's not healthy. You know why? Because I've been living in it for the last 8 years. Instead of talking about my problems, right, I've been bottling it up. I've been living in my head going, okay, I can do this on my own. Look at me. I cannot do this on my own. I have to talk about it. Tips to help. Okay, now we're going to get into this. I'm just going to read this and then we'll be done with this video. I hope you guys are laughing because I'm laughing talking about it. I feel really good. I'm glad that I'm able to sit down in front of this camera finally and talk about this because it's been a while. So some of the things that will help you, okay? One is to step back and look at how you are responding to your situation. Number 2, find a distraction. Now, I don't always believe in finding a distraction because to me that's kind of hiding it and running away from it. But at the same time, if it's really bothering you at that moment, by listening to music, turning on a funny movie, or reading a book, that is healthy because it gets you out of your head and it calms you back down. So once you're calm, put the distraction away and face it. Face yourself. Look yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. You're okay. I love you. You know what I mean? There's tell yourself. You might not believe it, but it works. I know for a fact because I used to sit in front of the mirror and I was like, I can't do this. And then over time, remember, my book on Grief Looks Good on You, my 30-day workbook, it takes 30 to 90 days to change that habit. Even though you don't believe it, the more you do it, the more you believe it, the better you feel. And then you won't need that mirror anymore. You'll just know it. So, finding a distraction can be helpful in the moment to release that emotion, to calm you down. But then you have to go back to yourself and say, okay, let's start again. So the next thing it says here is deep breathing. Number 4 is meditation. I've never been good at that stuff. But you know what I do? I'll read a book. I take a walk. Okay? I try to do some stretches. Oh, yeah. Okay? 5, look at a bigger picture. Sometimes it's almost impossible to see the bigger picture when you're in that moment. And I know that all too well too. So try to see it from a different angle, okay? Maybe seek outside help and say, hey, what do you think is the bigger picture? Maybe someone can give you some tips on what they see, right? Do something nice for someone else. I like that one because it does help you. If you can't do something for yourself, go outside and find a homeless person. I don't know why I'm always bringing up homeless people because we have so many people that need help. If you cannot help yourself, try helping someone else. That's it. Whether you're sitting down talking to them or you give them a meal or Or you call up a friend who's having a bad day. Or how about your kids? You can sit down and help them even with homework, right? I don't know why that just came to me. Okay, number 7, it says recognize automatic negative thinking. Sometimes when we're in the moment, it's hard to do that. But the way I see it, I taught my kids like, hey, mommy, you're yelling. I taught them to talk to me. Calm tapping on my shoulder. Mommy, you're yelling. Mommy, you're cussing. And that seems to help me. But I don't recognize it. Or if I'm having a negative thought and I'm talking to someone, they tell me, hey, that's pretty negative there. But then you got to evaluate your friends and who you're talking to too, because that can cause your negative thinking. So try to find yourself around positive people. That's the only way I can do it. You've got to recognize it. You've got to catch yourself. It takes practice. It does. It's just like sitting in front of the mirror. If you catch yourself, stop it. The saying goes, for every negative thought, you must give yourself 3 positive thoughts. Okay? So if you catch yourself in that automatic negative thinking, stop yourself and give yourself 3 positives. Okay? I don't care where you're at. Just do it. And then the last one shows here, and this is all by healthline.com, acknowledge your success. Acknowledge it. Say, hey, I've come a long way. It might be day 1 and I might have to start over tomorrow, but hey, I am here today. What have you done today to acknowledge that success? Me, it's by sitting here talking to you guys. It's like saying, hey, I did it. I'm doing it. Might be perfect today, but I'm not going to be perfect tomorrow. Who cares? Today, I'm successful. Today, I'm better. Right now, in the moment, I'm good. I love all of me. I love you. Remember, get out that mirror. A lot of us were mirrors to each other. We are an exact mirror to what we need in our lives or what we don't need. So the next person you meet, if they piss you off, that's because there's something within you that needs to be worked on. If you get so much overwhelming love, from this person, it's because that is how you are. And just like when you give love, you're giving that love to someone else because you see that love in them. Unconditionally. You're an exact mirror. You're a yin and yang. Black and white. Twins, so to speak. So remember that. Next time you meet someone and they piss you off, instead of getting mad, start looking at yourself and going, okay, why did they piss me off? Why did I react that way? What is it in me that I need to work on? It really changes your perspective. It gives you a whole different perspective when you see it that way. Then you start understanding, the flow of things. So over time, it becomes a chronic habit. Okay, it does. This emotional addiction becomes a chronic habit, difficult to break. It is not a character flaw or a sign of weakness. It is a coping mechanism in response to past mistakes, trauma, or difficult childhood experiences. Over time, it becomes a chronic habit. I had no idea that it was habitual. I just knew, hey, I'm emotional. I didn't know until later that I was even venting all the time. Like everywhere I went, I was venting about my problems. It's not a character flaw or a sign of weakness. It is a coping mechanism. It's part of us, but it doesn't have to keep being a part of us. Overthinking is a worry problem, just as overanalyzing is a scenario problem. Hear that again. Overthinking is a worry problem. Overthinking means you're worried about something. Overanalyzing is about a specific problem. For me, in my relationship, and one of the main reasons why we're always fighting was because I couldn't trust him. because of something that had happened in the past, I couldn't let it go. I constantly am playing it over in my head. I'm constantly there, and I'm constantly venting about it. And I'm living in that fear and uncertainty that it was going to happen again. In my situation, it was cheating. It was looking at things and people online. It was his history of doing stuff that I didn't feel confident enough in myself to trust myself and to know that my worth was good and my ability to trust this man again, because I was living in that fear. That was me, and I want to be honest.